We have some exciting things planned for this week. On Friday, the senior reps are throwing a TGIF for you. It's Pirates of the Caribbean themed, and there's a special guest, Jack Sparrow, coming. So on Friday during lunch, get ready and come out for some good fun.
We have a busy community meeting today. Our first offering is from the Sandy Hook Promise Club. So make sure you give them your full attention, please. You can come on up.
And I'm Nemo, and this year we started a club called the Sandy Hook Promise Club, and it works with Sandy Hook Promise, a non-profit organization that works to prevent gun violence. It was started by the parents of some of the victims of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, which happened on December 14th, 2012, and resulted in the deaths of 28 people, most of which who were children between the ages of 6 and 7.
So we want to start this presentation the way that we start our regular club meetings, which is talking about some current events related to this issue. So first of all, on Valentine's Day, a couple of weeks back, was the 1-year anniversary of the Parkland shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. So we want to recognize that although that shooting took place over a year ago now, this issue is still super relevant in our community, and these sorts of things keep happening. And then on a slightly more optimistic note, the House of Representatives just recently passed H.R. 8, which is a bill that calls for universal background checks, so that's super awesome.
We started this club because last year, after the Parkland shooting, there was a lot of momentum building up around the issue, and as a student body, we participated in the walkout and the March for Our Lives. However, since last spring, much of the momentum, both within our community and outside of it, has been lost. But that doesn't make the issue any less important or relevant. We started this club to keep our community invested in preventing gun violence and creating a safer school. In order to do so, we have begun implementing the Say Something program provided to us by Sandy Hook Promise, which teaches student and faculty members how to recognize signs of potential violence and when to take action.
Okay, so these are some examples of things that people have said after an act of gun violence has occurred and they fail to recognize the signs or take preventative action, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Why didn't they say something?
So today we learn how to say something to protect yourself, classmates, and the community to help prevent violence, suicide, and threats. But before we start, we want to acknowledge that this is a really sensitive topic, and if you feel like you need to speak to someone about it confidentially, Dr. Young is a really great resource and always available.
So the first step is to look for warning signs, signals, and threats.
Step 2, act immediately and take it seriously.
And step 3, say something to a trusted adult.
These are some statistics provided by the organization regarding warning signs presented before an act of gun violence. So it says that 30% of threats of violence were sent electronically and 28% used social media. 77% of active shooters spend a week or longer planning their attack, and in nearly every case, warning signs were given.
So if we teach you how to 1, look for warning signs, signals, and threats, 2, act immediately and take it seriously, and 3, say something to a trusted adult, we will get better at 1, reducing violence, threats, and tragic consequences, and 2, creating safer, healthier schools and communities.
So step 1, look for warning signs, signals, and threats.
What is a warning sign? A warning sign is thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that show significant change and that an individual may be in need of help.
Some examples include withdrawal or isolation from others, bullying and hitting, excessive anger, mood changes, etc. But it's also important to note that these signs may not point to a potential act of gun violence, but if a person does present these signs, they may need a different kind of help, so it's still really important to recognize them and bring them to a trusted adult.
What is a warning signal? Gestures or actions that can be either obvious or unclear.
Some examples are fascination with death, suicide, violence, weapons, etc. And the same goes for warning signals. Not all point to potential threat, but it's still important to recognize these signals.
What is a threat? A threat is any communication that has the intent to harm themselves or someone else.
these examples is kind of where it gets tricky, especially we've talked about it with our generation, because it's a big part of our generation's sort of sense of humor to say things like this or joke about things like this. But it's really important to know that people can still take these things seriously when they hear it, and additionally, all adults on campus here at Lick are mandated reporters. So if they do hear you say something like this, they're required to report it, and people should all take it really seriously because it might not be a joke.
Where are warning signs, signals, and threats found?
Many are presented through social media or online. Others are spoken, photos, videos, written, gestures, or actions and behaviors.
It's not just about violence and suicide, you can also help with other problems. And like we said, although these signs and signals we talked about may not indicate a potential act of gun violence, they can still be attributed to other very serious issues such as abuse of any kind, eating disorders, etc.
So step 2 is act immediately and take it seriously.
When should you act? When you see, hear, or read a warning sign, signal, or threat, act immediately and seek help.
A lot of people don't report warning signs or signals because they don't think that the person was being serious or that it was a big deal, but it's always better to be safe rather than sorry.
Act immediately and take it seriously. So there are protocols in place here at Lick that all faculty members are well versed in. So if you do see a sign like the ones we listed before, you should report it immediately. And don't worry if you don't have a plan. The teachers here know what to do, and they will determine how serious it is as well as the appropriate actions to take. And even though teachers know what to do if a warning sign or signal was reported, that doesn't always mean they see them firsthand, so that's why it's so important for students to report them if they see something like this.
A lot of other people have also hesitated to report a warning sign or signal because they're afraid of being called a tattletale. But saying something to a trusted adult when you see a threat is actually really different than telling on someone. So saying something is getting someone help for their own safety and well-being and to protect yourself and others from harm. And you do that because you actually genuinely want to help them versus telling on someone, which is purposely trying to get someone in trouble for your own gain just because you feel like getting them in trouble.
When you act, you could save someone's life or the lives of others. And when you don't act, you could risk losing a friend or a classmate. Individuals want to be helped, though they may not know it or understand it, and they might not know how to get it.
So step 3 is say something to a trusted adult.
Who do I say something to? Say something to a trusted adult. They have experience and knowledge to get help for an individual. If there is an immediate life-threatening situation, though, follow your school steps and dial 911, then seek a trusted adult for assistance.
So who do we say something to? So these are some examples of trusted adults.
It could be a parent or a teacher, a school counselor, psychologist. At our school, that's Dr. Young. The deans like Miss Yin, Mr. King, and Miss Wiley. Other adults in the community, admin, a coach, instructor, a mentor, or really any adult in the community.
So these can be obviously really difficult conversations to have, but it's super important to go to a trusted adult immediately and bring any texts, photos, videos, or other communication you have available, or if the conversation that you had with the person was spoken, then write down what you heard and what you remember so you can bring that to a trusted adult.
So how to have a conversation. The first thing you can say is, I must talk to you about blank. They have threatened blank. I'm noticing blank warning signs or signals, and then share your support or personal notes. And then 3, I need your help now to get them help. Share where an adult can find the individual parent's name and contact information if you know.
So why should you say something? You, as students, hear and see things that others don't, specifically adults. We're essentially the eyes and ears of the school. We interact with each other more than adults interact with us and in different ways. So we can really help reduce violence and threats.
And now we're going to take a pledge. So it's a repeat after me. I promise to look for warning signs, signals, and threats. Act immediately and take it seriously. Say something to a trusted adult. To help create a safer and healthier school. So thank you. Also, so our clubs meet on day 5 during lunch in room H213. So please come out. And next we're going to have a presentation from Miss Wiley about the protocols that the school has.
First of all, great job to Sophia and Mimo. They put a lot of work into the presentation. They've also been huge advocates for the student community. They've requested meetings with me. They've requested meetings with Terry Eckhart, who oversees the facilities, the plant, to get a sense of what's already in place and ways that they can, one, get more information, needed information to students, and then number 2, where potentially are there gaps, and what can filling those gaps look like. And so in part, trying to build a student culture of both awareness and support is one of those areas, and they're right. As much as we're members of the community, the adults are not in all places at all times. And so it's important to build that culture of both awareness and support. What they've asked me to do, and so I'm going to do it kind of in a digestible piece, is to show you a few things in terms of where you can find access to information, and then actually what the protocols of the school that are in place look like. We do annually practice a lockdown drill. We will be doing one this spring, and we also do presentations with the adults in advance so that they're prepared. They're your best guides in terms of what to do in a particular moment, is always to sort of follow the leadership and the advice of adults that are in spaces where you are. Just so you know, when you land on the resource board as a student, if you click on emergency, you have access to all of the protocols for the school. And so it tells you, where we evacuate, if a long-term evacuation is needed, for example, during a earthquake. If there's an evacuation actually during the lockdown, we evacuate in the same space as well. We've tried to keep the drill sort of as similar as possible so that you're kind of building muscle memory in terms of ways that we actually, when we do the fire drill, same types of exits, evacuating over to City College, just so that it becomes sort of a known practice for you. What you can find here, as you can see, is also the lockdown protocol. So I'm going to actually just kind of give you a little bit of sense of the what we have as a protocol. So as you can see, in terms of lockdown, we are being responsive in particular to a few scenarios. Lockdown in particular is in response to when there's sort of a serious threat present, particularly if that threat is including guns. And so as you can see here, we've sort of defined, there's a few different contexts for when we would consider moving into a particular lockdown. The third one is sort of armed intruder. And we have a very clear specific protocol. What is most essential for you all to know is that if there is a presence of a threat, first and foremost, it's for you to move away from where that threat is. Whether that threat is it's announced over the PA system or there's something that you hear, it's to move yourself away from that particular threat. If keeping yourself safe means that you need to be in lockdown, the most sort of ideal situation is you are in lockdown with an adult in the classroom spaces, but students can also do a lockdown themselves in classroom spaces and a lot of community spaces. In particular, with the doors, particularly in the new main building, All of those doors are going to have door stops on them. And so what that's going to mean is that teachers can keep the door locked, and if we need to leave the door open for kids to come and go, we use the door stop. And what that means for you as a student is you can kick up the door stop automatically, the door closes, and the door will automatically be locked. A lot of the interiors also have push button locks on them. In the, I guess what we're kind of now calling the older building, in the library building, all of the doors also have automatic latch locks that will flip and automatically lock the door. All of this is to make it safe and for you to be able to respond to a particular threat and be able to keep yourself safe and out of harm's way. Again, ideally with an adult present, but if not, you still have the capacity to be able to do that yourself, to be able to make sure that you are kept safe and out of sight yourself. So as you can see here, we do have a sound system. And so when we do drills, one of the way that it's announced is we actually announce it through the PA system, right? That we are actually in a lockdown. What is most essential when that happens, depending on where you are, is one, that you lock down the space, which means making sure that the door is locked and bringing the blinds down, or using anything you can to cover windows if blinds are not there, including like those large sticky notes that teachers use. And then number two, sitting on kind of along an interior wall. You don't want to be kind of sitting in any visible area, so you want to sit in an interior wall that's aligned with the actual door. In terms of, you can see we've got alternate spaces. So for example, in the cafe, it's to move downstairs, but please know that where the cafe staff works and delivers lunch, that back area is also completely able to be locked down. So if needed, you can also be in that space, and all of the exterior doors there locked down. In terms of bathrooms, it's to stay in the bathroom and keep the door locked. Bathrooms also are able to be locked. The door into the restroom, both the multi-stall and single stall, can also be locked. Library, we use the back study rooms. Both of those doors lock. Gym we use here. We use the rock climbing room. The center, we're going to use the offices, the two offices in the both Alan and Ben's office and Christy's office. And then admissions, same thing, moving into the admissions office. If you happen to be in the lobby, your goal is to either get into the center and the center offices. You can come this way into the gym, or to get into the admissions office, which can also lock down. When we do drills, you will always hear like the drill has ended. It will also come over the PA system. Just so that you are aware, when we do a lockdown drill, we always immediately do internal emails to faculty staff so that they are aware. We also send an external communication home. So all of your emergency contacts who were listed will get a text message that will say, the school is practicing a lockdown drill. This also gives us insight into making sure that all of the emergency contact numbers are working for every member of our community. So your family members will get information that a lockdown drill is happening, and they will get information for when the lockdown drill has ended. So just know that we do both internal and external communications. If in the situation of a real emergency and we're in lockdown, you do not come out of a lockdown unless you have been alerted by the administration and security of the school or San Francisco PD. In the event that we're able to evacuate, that will be announced over that PA system that we will be evacuating and using the evacuation routes, but that would only be under the guidance of SFPD, who would be on campus at that point. One last thing to let you all know, in every classroom, office, community space like the gym, cafe, we're going to be putting up copies of our emergency action plans. So in every classroom, this will be available. So all of that to mean you don't have to remember all of the information. It includes kind of a mini version of the steps that you would go through for fire, for earthquake, for lockdown, for bomb threat. And it also includes phone numbers that you would need from the Ingleside Police Department to the local San Francisco Fire, and people on campus that you can also notify. So I just want you all to know that you'll have access here too to information as you need it. If you have questions, concerns, fears, things not covered. I'm also going to be sitting in at one of the next Sandy Hook club meetings. So they've agreed to kind of open that club meeting for people to come if there's more that you want to bring to myself and to Mr. Ecker, who kind of oversee doing these drills. So I do encourage you to attend. People look out for that, and just know that we'll be there and available to you. Okay, Mimo, Sophia, thank you.
Thank you again to Mimo and Sophia and to Ms. Wiley. And now we would like to invite up Hannah Hanif to talk about Yoga for Good.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah Hanif again. So I don't know if you saw on the E-Tiger, but there's going to be a Yoga for Good event this Friday, and so I just wanted to give you like a brief information about it. So Yoga for Good is an event sponsored by this nonprofit called OneProsper International, and so they address problems in the Thar Desert of India where girls get limited access to education due to having to collect water for 5 to 7 hours a day, or just like their families can't afford to get them access to education. So OneProsper finds the solution to provide these girls and their families clean water, education, and opportunities for income. So in terms of clean water, they give families these tanks that collect rainwater, and then they have these biosand filters that filter out the dirt and give clean water. In addition, they provide all the girls who are their beneficiaries tuition supplies, a bicycle, and 1 year of tuition. And finally, for income, OneProsper provides drip irrigation systems so that cropping and farming is more efficient, and so families can get higher income and eventually can be independent and pay for their girls' education. So each girl takes about like $850. So Yoga for Good comes in this way that in honor of International Women's Day, which is March 8th and this Friday, Yoga for Good is a tradition of OneProsper to hold a yoga class, a donation-based yoga class, so that in one way you can say you do good and you feel good while donating and doing yoga at the same time. So I'm going to be holding a Yoga for Good event this Friday. Miss Merck will be leading the yoga class during tutorial, and it's going to be in rooms 201 and 203. And I'm also going to be fundraising for OneProsper during lunch on Thursday and Friday. On Thursday I'm selling ice cream, and on Friday I'm selling Jamba Juice. So hopefully that'll make your TGIF better. And please remember to, in addition, and also please donate to oneprosper.org if you don't have time this week. Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah. And now let's invite up the development office to do a swag wheel.
Sort of reintroduced ourselves since the beginning of school, and we haven't had that many swag wheels. So anyway, this is Lauren, and I'm Nancy, and happy Monday morning. Okay, we're gonna start picking names. Sophomores. Morgan Herring. Bless you, Morgan. This is juniors.
Maya Rushlow.
Maya Martinez Crayons.
It's Maya. Seniors.
Jacob Cherdak.
Okay. Are you ready? In what year, this is hard, just gonna tell you. In what year was the theater built? Morgan Harris has the answer, apparently. Maybe.
1963.
That's a good start. That is wrong, but a valiant effort. We'll give it to the closest person. Everyone gets a guess, and we'll give it to the closest. You get a re-guess.
1985.
1990. 1975.
Well, the correct answer is 1989. Good guessing. Thanks for playing. Morgan, the swag wheel is still under the weather. Just come to our office and you can choose your swag. Congratulations.
You can now line up for announcements. I've been told by a student council member that I have what's called RBF during announcements, so I'll do my best to remedy that. You can line up this way. Hello everyone, I'm Mr. Asaro, Director of Vocal Music. For the Sam Mahara Day of Justice, we are having an arts presentation that is going to be student created and presented. We're having an informational lunch meeting today in the music room. We are allowing food in the music room. If you are a performing artist and wish to work on a collaborative piece or pieces, we might have multiple, that involve different disciplines of the performing arts, please come to the music room at lunch today to find out more information. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Martin. March 11th is International 311 Day, so try to listen to the song Amber by 311. It's next Tuesday. Just listen to it once.
Hi guys, I'm Hannah, and my 4-H club is doing a book drive to raise books for underserved schools in Oakland. A lot of them don't have room in their budget to provide books for their classrooms. So if you have books for elementary school, anywhere from K through 5, please drop it off in a box at the center. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks.
I'm Callie. Girls lacrosse varsity has games on Wednesday and Friday at 4:30 against Branson and San Domenico.
Hello, I'm Brandon.
I'm Julia.
And there's a Big Share Appreciation Club meeting at lunch, so come out to the Big Share.
We have a very limited amount of food. food, so you have to fight the other members to get it.
I was gonna say PPP days are next week, but they're actually this week. Hope you didn't forget. Tomorrow, Wednesday, freshmen and sophomores, if you don't know what you're doing, check the board outside the center for service project opportunities as well as workshop locations. And for juniors and seniors, check with your teachers about clicks because they might be expecting you. I know you're so excited. No, they're not.
Alright folks, another reminder from the center is that the Ocean Avenue Block Party is happening next Saturday. We have over 20 different vendors and booths, and it's being put on by the Philanthropy Initiative students along with Youth Art Exchange, the OMI Cultural Participation Project, Instituto Familiar de la Raza, and many more organizations. So it's a fun time out. We will also be giving free food from Entonayense to any Lick-Wilmerding students, faculty, staff that come out. Thank you.
Tennis has a match today at Golden Gate Park versus Drew. And we also have a match on Wednesday at City College versus Cardinal Newman. Another match on Thursday at Shiva Racket Club in Oakland against College Prep.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Philippe en français.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Amity. I'm Charlotte.
The French for PPP class is having a Francophone Cultural Day on March 18th.
We're raising money to buy a computer to send to a teacher in Senegal. And we'll have food and music and activities and some cultural presentations come out. Also, if you're a sophomore that needs PPP hours, you can come talk to, and you're in French. You can talk to
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm Josh. I'm single. Slide into my DMs.
Tomorrow, boys varsity baseball is a game at Skyline at 3:30 versus San Domenico.
We also have a game Friday at Skyline College.
It's also Alex's birthday. Wish him a happy birthday. We love you, Alex.
Hi, I'm one of the leaders of LWOW, Sabrina. Hi, my name's Annette. I'm one of the other leaders of LWOW. So if you're going to be involved in Girl Talk this year, we are going to have one rehearsal on March 18th and one rehearsal on March 20th. If you can't make it to one of them, that's fine. Please email us. If you can't make it to both of them, we can't have you perform this year. So you guys are in charge of contacting your coaches, contacting Mr. Z if you're in the play, all of that stuff. If your piece requires lighting or music, so you're doing a dance or you're singing, you need to email me. Thank you.
Hello. So make sure to come out to Northgate High School for varsity men's lacrosse at 5 o'clock. And one senior that I'd love to have lunch with is Nick Podell. So shout out Nick.
I'm Miss Gusfield. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that bought baked goods last Wednesday in support of the Oakland Unified School, the Oakland Education Association's teacher strike. We raised over almost $600. So, and the strike is now officially over. So thank you for supporting, especially for teachers to pay their rent and get groceries while striking.
Thank you. Here we go.